"She's lying!" my husband shouted in the courtroom, and every head turned. David stood rigid beside his lawyer, his face flushed with rage. I sat still and watched Judge Henderson reach for a sealed envelope on his desk. I had never seen fear move across David's face before. It appeared now, fast and naked, when the judge opened the file and read one line twice. To understand why that moment mattered, you need to know what brought me here. My name is Ellen Mitchell. I'm 61, a former Army sergeant, and I live in Colorado Springs. I served 2 deployments in Afghanistan. I came home with some hard edges, some bad dreams, and a habit of waking at the slightest sound. But I also worked, paid bills, volunteered at church, helped raise my grandchildren, and kept my life moving. I was not broken. I was just a woman who had seen too much. David and I married in 1989, before my second deployment, when he still bragged about my promotions and wrote long letters while I was away. For years I thought we were lucky. Then after I retired, he began making little jokes. At a veterans' dinner, he told me I was more popular now than I had been in uniform. At a speech I gave for a local support group, he said people acted like I had won the war alone. I laughed it off at first, then the jokes turned sharp. When I woke from a nightmare, he sighed and said, "Still doing that?" His voice held irritation, not concern. The divorce papers arrived on a Tuesday. I found them on the kitchen counter in an envelope opened just enough to let me see my name. Page after page, they tried to paint me as mentally unreliable because of combat trauma. Not merely unhappy, not merely aging, unfit. I felt cold all the way through. David came home that night and ate dinner as if nothing had happened. I smiled, served the food, and decided not to confront him. Instead, I called a lawyer the next morning. Karen Ellis read the filing and tapped the page with one finger. "He's building a story," she said. "We answer with facts." So I dug through bank statements, receipts, tax records, and old military boxes. That is how I found the resort charges in Aspen, the dinners, the weekends he claimed were work trips. Then a former colleague called and told me the truth David had been hiding. He had been seeing a younger woman for nearly 2 years. I thought that would be the worst of it. I was wrong. In the basement, beneath deployment medals and folders of paperwork, I found a sealed Army packet with my name on it. I remembered receiving it after my final deployment and never opening it. Inside were evaluations from Afghanistan, including the convoy attack outside Kandahar that had nearly killed half our unit. I read about the smoke, the chaos, the wounded soldiers, and then I reached the conclusion page. Subject demonstrated exceptional judgment under extreme combat conditions. Subject is considered exceptionally reliable under stress. I stared at those words until my hands stopped shaking. David's entire case depended on the lie that combat had made me unreliable. The Army's own records said the opposite. At the hearing, his lawyer repeated the same claim: military trauma, memory issues, questionable judgment. Then David lost his patience and shouted, "She's lying!" He said I had twisted everything. The room went silent. Karen rose and asked the court to consider my service records. Judge Henderson opened the packet, read the evaluations, and looked up with a hard, disappointed expression. He kept reading. Every page reinforced the same truth: calm judgment, leadership, reliability, integrity. Then came the financial records, the hotel receipts, the affair, the hidden spending, the false image David had spent months building. By the time the judge ruled in my favor, the man who had tried to ruin me was sitting very still. Afterward, the judge said service should never be used as a weapon against those who gave it. I carried those words home like a medal. 3 months later, I told my story at a veterans center, not as a warning, but as proof that trauma is not weakness. A woman in the back cried when I finished. So did I. David called me one afternoon after that. We met at an old coffee shop, and for the first time in years, he spoke honestly. He admitted his affair, his resentment, his envy of the respect I carried without asking for it. He said he wanted to feel bigger by making me smaller. It was ugly. It was true. I told him I did not hate him. Hate would have kept him alive inside me. Instead, I chose something harder: boundaries, peace, and the life I had almost forgotten was mine. I am still here. I am still standing. And that, more than any ruling, is the victory. No courtroom can take that from me, and no lie ever will again.